If you saw Too Much Punch for Judy in the 1990s or 2000s, the chances are you will have seen Ape Theatre Company perform it. They did well over 5,800 performances of it across the UK in those years. How did it all begin? Well, you'll remember a couple of episodes ago I said to you that Touchstone decided they didn't want to continue touring with it, and so it came back to me. And this is what happened. I contacted Matt, who was Graham in Epping Youth Theatre's Race to be Seen. He'd gone on to become an acting student at the Guildford School of Acting, the GSA. Just a little footnote here. I said to Matt, "You'll never make it in acting. No one ever does, so don't even try." And he said that was the biggest boost to him it was a big boost to him to prove me wrong. And I'm so glad he did, because he also gave me a career as a playwright. Matt says he remembers that day, and in my book I wrote Too Much Punch for Judy, the story behind Too Much Punch for Judy, which was for schools who are studying Too Much Punch. These were his memories. Towards the end of my third year, Mark approached me saying Frank Nunnally from Hertfordshire wanted to book a professional touring production. I had no idea of costs, but printed up some Ape Theatre Company Limited notepaper and cobbled together a budget with everything I could think of. I arrived at Frank's office full of confidence, but no idea of what I was doing. "Yes," I lied to Frank happily, "we've already produced loads of plays." I knew he wasn't buying into it, but he didn't let on. Well, not until later, when we'd become friends. The meeting went well, and Frank said he might book the show. "Might book it?" I said. What would swing it to will book it? Get Faye Davis, remember? Faye, who stepped in at the last minute to perform in Epping Youth Theatre, and then went on to perform at Edinburgh and got all those good reviews, and then went on to perform in the original Too Much Punch for Judy. Thanks, Faye, you managed to get that actually up and running. Get Faye Davis to play Judy, and you have a deal. Faye was 18 years old and about to leave college. I had to move fast. She had raw talent oozing out of her. I called her later that evening, and the deal was done. And not only that, but Matt got back in contact with me and asked me to direct that first production, which was great for me, because I was back able to direct my play, and used two actors from GSU, Tor and Steve North, who later went on to play, amongst other things, and he's done much more than this, but I remember him in London's Burning playing Colin Parrish, and I was so impressed when he got that big role. Lots of the Ape actors have gone on, and that was the group of them, Matt, Faye, Tor and Steve, in the production that I directed, that we produced first of all, we presented first of all at the GSA, and then it went on from there, and Matt directed it and Anthony Audenshaw directed it thereafter. They went about it incredibly properly. They performed it in Scotland, and they got evaluation things done very positively. So the tour continued, and sometimes, I think at its peak, it was running with 2 companies in England, 2 in Scotland, and abroad, but more of that later. This was another production I remember with Anthony Audenshaw, who later went on to become a star in Emmerdale and all sorts of other things. Anthony and Dan in that production with the little Ape Theatre logo. 2 actors, I'm afraid to say I don't know these 2 actors, but they were performing as well. Lots of designs we got, none of which matched up, in my view, to the one that was the best that John Rowley had done all those years before. And then probably the worst one, which was not anything to do with Ape, but this production which looks like very upper class people in a wine bar or a library or something go and have a very pleasant car accident. So Too Much Punch toured, and also Dave and Dave were born, who later became Bob and Nob, and I can remember the story of that. There'd always been a problem with the beginning of Too Much Punch for Judy. The version Epping Youth Theatre had a character called Captain Assertive and Phyllis, who were the opening kind of comedy bit to get everybody going. I then saw a production in Norwich where they staged a version of the wine bar scene, and actually in that version set it to music. That was done by my old drama advisor Roger Parsley. Lovely to see him during my play. And I think I'd recently seen that, and I came back and said to Steve, Matt, Tor and Faye, I want you to devise something really lively that will get the play off with a bang, because it really needed to capture the audience. So I literally left them and gave them, we talked about John Gobber. I was very impressed with Bouncers, and I wanted that kind of feel and that kind of excitement. And they were very impressed with Burkoff, who I'd not come across in a big way. And so a mixture of that created the Dave and Dave scene that they did, and then they subsequently developed that, and I went off in my own direction, and I think it became Trev and Kev for a while, and then Bob and Nob, which is the scene in Rhyming Couplets that you will know from the edition of the script that was ultimately published by DBDA in the early 2000s. Now, between 1990 and 2000s, and this story does seem to be one where I'm saying, oh, we had this success, oh, we had that success, and it's all very lovely to report. What was progressively sad for me was that this play was touring around. Everybody would know the title. No one would know who wrote it. I did a cheeky thing. I put a little bit towards the end that mentioned my name with Judy talking. I don't know whether Ape ever used that. They probably saw my ploy. But I was trying to get it out there, and there was a demand for it, because occasionally I'd be asked to send a photocopy. I sent it to publishers. Corel Press rejected it. Cambridge University Press, who had had such success with Catherine, Hard to Swallow, rejected it. Oxford University Press rejected it. I mean, how disappointing is this to someone who feels you've got something going well? And Nelson Thornes rejected it. And Nelson Thornes brings about a funny story, because they said, what did they say? I've submitted them to Andy. We're looking for scripts which are a little longer than these two plays and which offer greater depth of characterisation and narrative. However, Andy Kemp, is intending to contact you in the near future to discuss any work which may prove suitable for inclusion in the series. Andy did. And that's what brought about Arson About, which we wrote with him editing and seriously helping the development of that. And that later became Butcher Butcher Burning Bright. So it was lovely that Andy did get back to me, but he said it's been a thorn in his side that he rejected it. And the other little kind of upset that Too Much Punch suffered throughout all these amazing things was this Sun headline. Kids in tears at sick drink drive show. And it really did have a tiny bit of a backlash here. But it was the Scottish production, and it said, theatre director Alistair MacDonald admitted it is a very traumatic piece. We've had pupils physically sick, and a lot of them have been crying. There are no gory scenes, but the reality of the situation sometimes gets to them. And then, he says, and this is where we get to the reality, the play Too Much Punch for Judy is based on a true story. The decapitation scene is played out with red and black handkerchiefs to symbolise death. Is that really what caused such upset? 2 little handkerchiefs? There we are. I actually wasn't bothered by that. I thought I would be bothered by a Sun newspaper headline, but that one was such weak stuff. And Too Much Punch for Judy had a life of its own, and it went on, and in the year 2000 it was published. More of that later.